Jets, I hear them say it now.
Jets, white, green, just green and white. Tell me, have you ever seen a team take flight? Super Bowl dreams are still in sight. All we gotta do is win tonight. White, green, just green and white. Tell me, have you ever seen a team take flight? Super Bowl dreams are still in sight. All we gotta do is win.
What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back for another video here on the Turn Up the Jets YouTube channel. Before we get into things, we got obviously a special episode, the first ever guest on the show. First ever guest. You made history. We'll introduce him in one sec. As always, of course, I'm Joe Scurto. Like the video if you actually liked it. You can follow me on Instagram and on X or whatever the hell you call it. At Turn Up Jets, all one word, and subscribe if you have not already. Much appreciate all the support. But yes, the first guest in Turn Up the Jets history here, Tony Tucker from the MJT YouTube channel. Go follow them. We were going to have NFL Mike, Shawn Michaels. You know, he has many names, but he was not able to make it, unfortunately. But Tony, man, welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm very excited to be the first guest. I'm glad it's a solo appearance too. You know, like I would have had to bully Mike off the screen had I known that it was the first time, because it's got to be a solo shot. But yeah, if you're new to this channel, you should definitely follow Joe, one of the most just non-biased fans of anything, right? Like you keep it real about whenever we talk sports. I know that it's how you feel. It's not a hot take. It's not anything. It's well-researched and it's a good opinion. And sometimes that's going to hurt the feeling of Jets fans, but it needs, like, some of those things are going to need to be said.
Hey, I appreciate that. I mean, I know the Jets, it's like half negative Jets, half like way too over optimistic. I feel like I'm in the middle. I don't like to be negative, but if they suck, I'll tell you they suck, and we'll go from there. But I always hope. We were talking about before the show. You always have to have hope, and I think for me, for being tortured so many years, I still find hope somehow. Yeah, I guess we can just jump into it. We're just going to go into the preview here. Jets, Chargers, of course. My Jets, your Chargers. Definitely just want to give me your opinions here. Brandon Staley, I know he's a big conversation every week. It seems like we're talking about him. It seems like Kellen Moore has maybe worked out a little more, and maybe, no pun intended, maybe has saved his job a bit. But like, just give us, your opinions of Staley and about what, the Chargers throughout the first 8 weeks as they're 3-4.
So I think the thing the schedule makers did to us that was terrible was the Miami Dolphins in week 1, right? Like, you're getting one of the most creative play callers with an entire offseason of stuff you're not going to see. And then you've seen the rest of the league pretty much continue to struggle with figuring that out. So I think that kind of just put the season on to a rocky start where it was like, hey, this defense should have been decent, and it's gotten better each week with Staley. The problem is like in the biggest matchups, right? When we come, the season gets back on track, you go to 2-2, you get an early bye, you come out and you get the Cowboys on Monday night in a game where it's like, you just have to win this game, and it's a winnable game. And everybody's talking about how well Dak played. Like, he just didn't lose the game for the Cowboys for once. Like, just go back and watch it. He wasn't sensational. The Chargers defense had small letdowns, and I think that's where it's at. I've been one of the biggest Brandon Staley supporters of anybody. If you go on to any YouTube video comment, they shred Staley and want him fired. And I was backing him all the way up until the Chiefs game. But when you play Patrick Mahomes like that on a team that was averaging throwing the ball downfield the lowest it had been, they're in the Patrick Mahomes era, they're only averaging 23 points a game, and you play 10 yards off the ball, you give Travis Kelce that much space to run. I lost my mind, and I was like, I can't take it anymore. Now, I'm not going to join the absurdity of those people saying the things they are. I don't wish for people to lose their jobs at my advanced age. When I was younger, I definitely did some of that. Now that I'm older, I realize, like, hey, it sucks to relocate kids and have to find a new job and change schools and stuff like that. So, like, I don't wish that kind of stuff on people, but I don't back him like I did before. I don't say, like, the defense is right around the corner anymore, because as soon as they put together 2 or 3 good games, they will find a way to overcomplicate things. Like Staley doesn't realize, keep it simple, man. You got Bosa and Mack and Derwin James. Like, you should easily have a top 15 defense, and it should probably be top 8 with the amount of talent on that side of the ball, but it just never does. So, like, I think he benefits from having Justin Herbert, who covers up a lot of warts, and I think he benefits from having some real ballers on the other side. The thing is like, what happens next year, Joe, when the Herbert contract starts to elevate in price and the salary cap becomes an issue, and you can't keep Bosa and Mack, and you can't keep Mike Williams when he comes back from knee surgery and all of these things. It's like, now the team has less talent. Like, does it get better? Like, does it get better with more of the unknown? I don't know. That's why it's like, what's the answer? The only answer to me is Jim Harbaugh, but that's because I'm a Michigan guy. So like, let's go.
That would be nice.
If that's the option, then sure. But otherwise, like, I just don't think firing him is the answer. Like, I don't think that he's necessarily like a direct result for why they're losing the games. He's not reason why they're winning games, but I don't think he's like the absolute result. Like, the players still have to go on the field and play, and I think he just needs to make things simpler, kind of like what he did against the Bears. Although, 2 of his wins are against rookie QBs this year. That's not a good thing. We gotta start beating some good teams.
No, that's fair. I mean, I do think people overreact. Like, you look at it now, like, so many coaches go for it on 4th down. Like, it's just simple. Like, and I think, when he goes for it to go, oh, here we go again. I feel like it's like every game now. It's not like it was 5 years ago. Like, every team will go for it at least once or twice on 4th down. So I feel like him getting that rep is like kind of over exaggerated. But I do think, he's to blame I feel like he is to blame kind of for the defense more so like the offense, just because, like you said, he's a defensive guy. He had these really good defenses in the Rams with the Rams. And like, you look at the roster, like the Chargers are loaded defensively. Yeah. Like, I don't get how they're the worst passing defense in the league. I don't get it. So I'm guessing that's your frustration too with the defense, because like, this is the window. I feel like their window is to win now with the contract, and like, Herbert can only do so much. I've seen so much like, oh, Herbert's mid. Like, no, that's bullshit. Like, you go watch a game. You've seen. I've watched him in the 2 primetime games that they played in, and he's a really good quarterback. I mean, like, it doesn't take any genius to figure that out. So I feel like the defense is more so like the issue, right, for you guys.
Yeah, so that's the thing is like, I would love for him to give up play calling and just be a head coach, just be on the sideline, be able to check in with your team on both sides of the ball. Because I think what happens, even with the offensive struggles, is they need somebody to go over there and like really get into them and get them going. And I think Brandon Staley, one of his things is he's a good talker. And I do think he can be inspirational, and he can, recenter focus and stuff like that. And it would also give him an opportunity too to like go over and check in with the defense a little bit more too. Like, and you could have Derek Ansley. It just he is to blame, right? Because if you look at the Jets, I mean, the Jets, no offense, aren't great the past 2 years offensively.
Very bad. No offense taken. Very bad. Worst
defensively.
Worse, yes.
Ridiculously good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have a head coach who's like, hey, my side of the ball is going to be a strength. So you would think, oh, you have Herbert on one side stabilizing things, right? The greatest dynasty in history, we've all seen this, is a defensive head coach and a quarterback who's like, I got this over here. You hold up your end of the bargain. You kind of need that. And then you can really put together years of dominance. But if you never get the defense to where it's supposed to be, then yeah, you're to blame. And if he got fired, I wouldn't be upset about it, but I'm not just going to like fully lay blame for a team losing on his doorstep, even though it's like people make the argument and I can't combat it anymore. For the longest time, I used to come up with all these different ways in the arguments. Now I'm just kind of like, all right, I hear what you're saying, and you're right. All the horrible things you're saying, I can't I can't fight it anymore.
Yeah, and I feel like saying firing a coach is just like the lazy way too. Like you said it earlier, it's like the players still have to play. You know what I think the Raiders did, and I'm gonna have Joe on next week, is lazy. What the Raiders did, in my opinion, like you fire everybody, but like you look and it's just like the team. I mean, the offensive line stinks. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't have any time. You know, that's just my quick thoughts of that. But for the Chargers, I just feel it's just like it's an easy scapegoat. If rather like, oh yeah, they should fire him. And interesting you say too with the play call, because Saleh doesn't call the plays either. And I think, you know, honestly, that gives him the ability to pay attention to the offense, which, you know, obviously needs more attention every week than their defense. But like, I feel like coaches get too carried away, and I hate to bring him up, but Adam Gase, you know, obviously not a great example because he was literally the worst coach ever, but he was so invested in the offense. It's like then their defense sucked. And it's like I feel like a lot of coaches get carried away with like one side of the ball, but it's weird because Staley's so invested in the defense, but the defense isn't playing well. So that's maybe it is time to, you know, give the reins to somebody else.
Complicated. It is. There's a lot of times where you see guys and they're in a zone coverage, but it's like if they run a certain route, it switches to man coverage, and they're just not sure. When it's like, hey, just line up, let Michael Davis go play man on Garrett Wilson in this game. For example, he should have let Michael Davis play a more man in that situation against Travis Kelce. We've seen Michael Davis in past years come into that slot area and line up and have a little bit of success with him. Let Derwin be a little more man on Travis Kelce in that. Play a little more man against CeeDee Lamb. Don't go 8 yards off the ball on 3rd and 3. Like, well, come on, man.
That's crazy.
You're asking for easy completions for first downs. But a lot of it too was like, I would like your opinion on this. Where do you blame on the discipline thing? Like, I could see if you have one bad game where a team makes a bunch of stupid penalties and it costs them a game. But if your team's doing it every week, at a certain point, it's on the players. Like a coach can only do so much to preach and harp on discipline. At a certain point, it's like he just has to tell Derwin James, stop smashing people in the head. You can't. We love the way you play. And 10 years ago, it would have been celebrated on ESPN. But now, you just cannot be smashing people in the face every week.
No, yeah, that's totally fair. I think, yes, it goes to coach to a certain extent, and then the players. Like, for instance, the Jets had a similar case. Like last week, they came in the second least penalized team in the league, which is like, oh, that means they're disciplined. But it seems like they always get penalties at the worst times at possible. They almost lost it last week because they had back-to-back unnecessary roughness hits on 3rd downs back-to-back. And then, DeVito runs in for a touchdown. It's like, okay, is it Saleh's fault or is it Jermaine Johnson and Quincy Williams' fault for literally hitting this guy in the head back-to-back drives, basically? It's like, to an extent, it's like, it's easy to blame the coach, but yeah, I mean, if you're going to go head to head, you're going to get flagged. And even if it's not head, if it's head to chest, you're almost going to get flagged every time now. So, no, I definitely agree. And what do you think? Do you think the Chargers, you still think they have a chance? Like 3-4, obviously it's still so early. So I feel like, especially the AFC is so unknown. So I feel like the Jets and the Chargers still have a pretty good chance. But like how big is this game, do you think, for the Chargers?
This is the game, Joe. Like, this is the game that I think could decide a 7-seed tiebreaker for either of these teams, where it's like, you'll look back and you'll go, oh, Sunday Night Football's, they're flexing in the Chargers against the Chiefs in Week 18 because if the Chargers win, they get this, and if the Chiefs win, they get home field advantage in the playoffs and knock the Chargers out. Like, it could be that kind of game where Week 18 comes down to like the Chargers are 9-7 and need to get to 10-7. To have that tiebreaker with the Jets, who could also be 9-7, and I forget it. You guys play the Dolphins in Week 18. I forget who you guys play.
Patriots. Yeah, and
Yeah,
they haven't
so
beat them in 15 straight games, so I hate that. But
but by then it's gonna be like Malik Cunningham will like he's not even on
that's
the
true.
roster anymore. He'll be like Bill. Bill will be running out, like Zolak from the booth and being like, "Hey, suit up, brother.
Yeah, right.
You're gonna take some snaps." So I do think that this game is crazy important for the Chargers to say, "Hey, we need to go on the road and find a way to beat one of the best defenses in the league."
No, for sure. Yeah, I think this is a huge game too. You just look at like the playoff picture there. It's like it's the Chargers, it's the Jets, it's the Steelers who won last night. Like all those teams, like they're all 4-3, 3-4. Like those last, I would say the last two spots, or more so, I guess the last spot, because I think the Bengals are figuring it out. I think the 7th seed, like you said, is just gonna be Jets, Steelers, Chargers, and I don't know if
Put
I'm
the Bills in
forgetting.
there. Put the Bills.
Yeah,
They're
I
headed
shouldn't.
in the wrong direction.
That's true. I'm thinking usually, Bills 5, Bengals 6, but honestly, yeah, no, I probably will put the Bills in there too. Like I think the Bengals are more guaranteed right now than the Bills. So yeah, and the Bills. So those 4 teams will probably be battling for the last 2 slots. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a big game. We'll get into we'll get your key matchup here. What your key is for the Chargers win, and then a prediction. Obviously, I'll give my key matchup, my key to victory for the Jets, and a prediction. But what's your key matchup heading into this game on your top of your head? Is there anything that you're, looking forward to seeing rather Monday?
The Chargers offensive line has to play well enough to where the story is the Chargers had the better defensive line play, if that makes sense. So both sides of the trenches for the Chargers, where it's like just based in like an average week, you can't really outplay the Jets defensive, like their down linemen. That rotation is intense. But if the Chargers offensive line can play well enough and open up some holes in the run game, right? Because that's where it's going to need to be. Keep a little bit of the pressure off of Herbert so he can complete some intermediate passes to Keenan Allen, maybe take a couple of shots in this game if Jalen Guyton is back. If they can neutralize them to where they maybe only have 8 pressures and 2 sacks or something like that, but the Chargers defensive line can look like the ones where they ended up with 15 pressures against an abused offense, a beat up Jets offensive line, and they have 5 or 6 sacks on Zach Wilson. And it's like, wait, I thought the Jets had the dominating offensive line. So to me, it's the Chargers offensive line. If they can make the story, the better defensive line in this game was the Chargers, that's the case. Because it doesn't matter how banged up the Jets offensive line is, the Jets still have the ability, even if the Chargers did have 15 pressures and 5 sacks, the Jets defensive line could still have 25 pressures and 8 sacks because they're that. Like, it's insane to watch the games. And we talked about this on the MJT football preview in the season, where somebody asked me, like, who's your breakout player from the AFC East? And I was like, Jermaine Johnson is coming this year. Like, he started to pick it up at the end of last year, and to where you rotate in Bryce Huff and like McDonald, where it's like it never stops. And that's a great thing to have. So I look around, I'm like, these guys, this will be known for Chargers fans as the Nick Vannett game. And a lot of the viewers are going, who's Nick Vannett? He's a journeyman tight end. They waived Trey McKitty. He's coming up. He's going to be a blocking tight end. If he can help solidify those 5, him with the 6, maybe we get to see a little more 12 packages, maybe a Hulk package with, our 6th offensive lineman playing fullback, and just play some really ugly, sort of more AFC North style football in this one.
Yeah, I feel like definitely the trenches is going to be where this game is won, because like if the Jets realistically need to pressure Herbert if they're going to win this game, like they need to make him feel uncomfortable. And it's easy to say, but like the Jets have been able to, they have had good luck, honestly, against really good quarterbacks like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. So like, I mean, those guys have 8 interceptions combined against the Jets defense. So like I think the trenches definitely will be like a very key matchup. my key matchup I guess it's sticking with the offense of the Chargers versus the defense. Like, it's got to be Sauce versus Keenan Allen. Like, I think for me, that's a huge matchup because Keenan Allen has played like a top 5 receiver this year. And I'll knock on wood for you, Chargers fans. You're welcome. I hope he's staying healthy. You know, that's a huge thing for his health, to kind of not be a factor, because it has been in the past. And you guys already lost Mike Williams and Quentin Johnston kind of going through those rookie growing pains. But Keenan Allen has played like a top 5 receiver. Every game I've seen Keenan Allen play, it seems like he's scoring a touchdown. So even though Sauce is more so a guy that they don't like to man up, like they reads on one side, Gardner's on the other. But I do think that, you know, they're probably going to have to go through quite a few battles. And, you know, if the Jets want to win this game, they can't have him take over, because the Jets got lucky with A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown got 130 yards. Usually if a receiver takes over like that, you don't win a lot, especially with a good quarterback. So the Jets will definitely have to avoid Keenan, you know, of course, taking over. What has been like the difference with him, do you think? Like, why is he – I feel like this is probably one of the best years he's ever had, right? Or am I over-exaggerating?
No, you're not. He's definitely on pace to set career highs in a lot of categories. I'm hoping that on Monday Night Football, he gets his moment to pass 10,000 career yards on Monday night. He's 70 away. So it'd be nice to have him have that moment in an island game where people could really look at the fact that, like, this guy's a Hall of Famer, right? He's put together a career where it's like the thing that he's missing is big time playoff performances, you know, and that's kind of more of an organizational thing. He can't control that. But he's going to end up with 12, 13,000 yards, career receiving, and 80 touchdowns. Like, be the team leader, hopefully in receptions. He can catch Gates in that department. But it's like the thing that Keenan is getting to do this year is he's getting to line up all over. He's getting more motion. The past couple of years with Lombardi, it's been pretty much like Keenan in the slot, and Mike out wide, and this is how we do things. Kellen Moore is allowing him to do a lot more, and he does a lot of these like really cool motions, or he'll start off in the backfield on a couple of plays, like just finding different ways to give the defense different looks. And I do think that part of the key will be like, you know, some of these weird bunch sets where it's like 2 tight ends, but Keenan is still kind of there in the slot, like giving it a tough look where they can almost use him as a decoy to kind of get Gerald Everett or Parham a little bit more open space down the field by, you know, muddying some of the looks as to where Keenan's lined up. And when you spread them out, why not have Quentin on one side? I don't know if Palmer's going to play in this game. Hopefully,
I was going to ask that. He got hurt last week.
Guyton's back. I would almost kind of like Palmer to sit this one out because I think he's a lot more key to what the game plan would be against the Lions the following week. Right? If you can get him closer to 100% off of a bad knee injury, then in this game we have, you know, Josh Kelly. We need Josh Kelly as Chargers fans to get 12 carries this game where he's really just mashing behind the right side of our line. You know, like getting out there, like I said, bringing in different looks, couple of tight ends, bringing in an offensive lineman at fullback and just saying, we might try and slow the game down and get a couple of carries for 3, 4, 5 yards, get to 3rd and 2, and then let Herbert figure it out. You know, like put the ball in his hands a bunch of times, having those short conversions where him and Keenan can work from the slot, or, you know, he can get a tight end in a favorable matchup. So it's the part of the thing that Keenan's been doing is it's just his career where it's just consistency, availability, and just being able to get open, you know, kind of having that Larry Fitzgerald transition to, hey, I can win anywhere on the field, you know, getting back to that where it's like, he can't win outside, he can't win in the slot. And a coach needed to realize that. And I think Kellen Moore has done that.
Yeah. I think Moore has done a pretty good job. I mean, and if you think about it too, like, I think, you know, Keenan being able to line up in the slot, or, you know, the X, the Z, whatnot, it kind of is making a guy like Josh Palmer, like you could see him slowly breaking out. I know, didn't he come back last week though? Did he come
did.
back into the game? Okay.
He did, but it wasn't as effective. I was there. I lost my voice in the third quarter.
you
I
were
was
at the
so
game.
excited. I was just losing my mind with excitement because it was like there was a pretty big if you go to a Chargers game, it's always going to be at best 60-40 Chargers fans. And I would say that was probably 50-50 Bears to Chargers fans there.
And
But
that's
the
a
Bears fans,
diehard fan base, though.
they just
The
didn't have
Bears.
anything to cheer about, you know,
Yeah,
like
that's true.
they didn't get much to yell. And I was being obnoxious. My wife had to check in and be like, hey, there's some Bears fans in front of you, you know, like you're up 17 in the fourth quarter. You could pipe down a bit. And I was like, nope, we paid $500 for these tickets. I'm sitting in the 100 section. I'm going crazy tonight. Yeah, so
yeah.
it was fun.
Love it. Are you going to any other games this year, or was that the only
Yeah,
one?
I'm going to take my son to Sunday Night Football, watch Lamar Jackson and the Ravens when they come to town. We've talked about going to the Lions game. It's just getting so expensive. Christmas is coming. I got 3 kids. It's like it's hard to justify spending all of that money. Like when I pulled up to park, the guy's like, "Oh, that'll be $125." I'm like, do I get dinner with that? And like, what is this? Is there like a spa day package I get? Like it just was. I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to.
You can curse. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm like this is outrageous.
Oh, dude, what just to park? That is crazy. I feel like it's almost better to actually, no, I can't even say that, but I was gonna say it's almost better to Uber because like you can, drink, screw around, you don't have to pay to park. But like I don't know how SoFi is, but like MetLife is terrible to get out. Like I was in week 1, I was at the game, my dad and I were at the game, and we literally had to walk like 3 miles to get to this Uber driver because like they blocked out everything, and it was cheaper, but I mean we were there for 2 hours. Like we literally, my 60-year-old dad had to like run like 2 miles to the freaking Uber. It was a disaster.
Oh, well, that game he probably was floating out of there after that Gibson TD. That was amazing.
Oh yeah, that was unbelievable. Oh man.
The problem for LA is like my house to the stadium is 56 miles away. So that Uber ride there and back is the same as parking. And then I just have to deal with locating a stranger and doing all, doing all this stuff where it's like, just suck it up. And there is cheaper parking. You can find a ways from the stadium and just walk the rest of the way. But it's like, at what point is saving $40 worth it?
Right. Yeah. You might as well just walk less and pay a little more.
Exactly. So I complain about it, but at the same time, it's like I could be a little thriftier. I could download the parking spot app. My friends are always, young people are always trying to get me to do stuff I don't want to do. They're like, pre-buy your parking spot online here and save $50. I'm like, yeah, but what if somebody steals my credit card? Like, I don't want that.
Yeah, right.
People.
I'm the same way though. I wouldn't even do that. I'm just such like, I'd rather do whatever is the most simple. Like I'm not going to go download a parking app. I'll just like take my money, whatever. It's too complicated for me. All right. What's the key to victory here for the Chargers, do you think?
Okay. The key to victory is Staley, take the field goals, my brother. Like, do not think in this game, oh, we have to be aggressive. Like the key to victory is if you can get into field goal range. And I kind of nerded out and was like looking at the forecast. There's potentially like maybe some rain or something. And I was like, oh God. Shit. Yeah. So I was like, it doesn't matter, rain, shine, whatever, kick field goals because every point is going to be necessary to beat this defense. Because if at the end of the game, the Chargers lose and it's 17-16 and Staley went for it on a couple of, field goal opportunities on 4th down, as fan base, we're going to be nuts because we can't keep leaving points out there. Like one thing is like, you should play aggressive to me if your quarterback isn't so great. But if your quarterback is like, hey, we got down here, Herbert will get us back down here again. Like take points if you can get him, because he'll be back. And maybe next time it'll be a touchdown. Stack as many points as you can to make it hard for the other team. And also so that this defense might not be able to pin their ears back in a game where Herbert has to go drive at the end of the game. So like take field goals. We should take field goals in the Cowboys game. We should have taken a field goal in the Miami game. Like a lot of things could have been different if he would just take more points that are there. So that's my key to victory, Staley. Kick field goals in the first 3 quarters of the game. Just please kick field goals.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's knowing your opponent too. Like, let's be honest, the Jets offense is very flaky. Like, they barely score 13 points last week, and then somehow Zach Wilson's throwing for 250 yards against the Chiefs and 2 touchdowns. So it's like you got to know that. Like, I feel like the most fascinating thing about this game is the Jets offense and the Chargers defense, because like they're both struggling, but like you don't know what's going to happen. Like the Chargers defense could play unbelievably well, or the Jets could somehow do what they did in Sunday night. So I feel like if you're Staley, like, yeah, you definitely have to take the points. And even if you're solid too, I mean, like, let's be honest, like it's a premium. Points will be a premium, I feel like in this game for sure. Yeah, my key to victory would just kind of be, pressure Herbert. I mean, that sounds pretty simple, but like you got to make him feel uncomfortable. I kind of mentioned it earlier, and that's what the Jets have been able to do. Like good quarterbacks are uncomfortable against this defense. And if they can make Herbert uncomfortable, who basically is, the reason why they win football games most of the time because of him and because of his performances, I think if the Jets just can pressure him, like the crazy thing is, the Jets don't blitz. Like they are the second least blitzing team in the league, but they have like the second or third most pressures in the league. I'm not sure how that's even possible, especially when they only rush 4. But they do it. I mean, their defensive line is that good. It's kind of nice to have a unit like this good, because Jets fans, we all know we usually don't get great things, but like this is a great thing that the Jets got going on here. So making Herbert like uncomfortable. I feel like that Cowboys game, Dallas did a really good job of making Herbert uncomfortable. He didn't have a lot of time, especially that last drive when he threw the pick. Like he didn't have time, and you can see him kind of getting uncomfortable. He had to run more than he usually does. So I think, the Jets really have to look at that Dallas game. At least Jets fans have to look at the Dallas game to see what Dallas did. Because I think Dallas's defense is really good, but like they did a really good job of just making him pressured and kind of force mistakes, because he's not really a big interception guy. So if you can get an interception from him, that's going to be pretty big for the Jets.
But the frustrating thing is the second half offense for the Chargers has been inconsistent for 2 years, and they can't seem to figure out what it is. They finally did something nicely where they scored a touchdown before the Bears right before halftime, and then got the ball back and came down and kicked a field goal. And that's 10 points. And what you hear a lot of coaches talking about that middle 8. You got to win that. We got to win that middle 8, whether it's getting a big stop and then scoring at the beginning, whatever it is. And they finally had a really strong middle 8 where it was 10-0 Chargers in that section there. If I was going to say there was a key to victory for Jets and the Jets fans out there, like to me, it is understanding that feed Garrett Wilson the football. Like that is, to me, is like they really have an opportunity to look back on this and people to be like, oh, they let Zach loose against a defense that hasn't proved that they can stop anybody passing wise yet. Like even if you go back and look at the Bears game, Taysom Bagent was still making plays down the field and still able to throw the football against the defense. And I would say, prove it. Prove that you can stop it. Like, look what CeeDee Lamb did. Travis Kelce, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. If you have an elite pass catcher, feed that man the football until they prove they can stop it. And to me, that's the thing is like, even if you're worried about Zach Wilson being average or bad or whatever, like Chargers have proven you don't need to be great. The past couple of years, everybody's been piling on Staley's defense his rush defense is 32nd in the league. Well, now their decent at stopping the run, which stopping Breece Hall is a different animal. But like, it's like now the pass defense is terrible. Bro, could you just get to the middle with both of them? If we could just get to 15 with both of them, the Chargers are probably a 6-win team right now.
Yeah, I know. I think that is weird because I remember I was just like looking at the stats, I think a few days ago and seeing like, oh, their rush D is actually really good kind of this year. And then last year, I remember it was not that case. So I don't know how that happens because their secondary is relatively healthy, right? Like Derwin James, again, another knock on wood, who's had bad luck, but he's healthy, right? And
it's good to have Alohi Gilman came back last week off a heel injury, so it was nice to have him back at safety because that allows a little more flexibility for Derwin. But Asante and Mike have struggled a little bit. Jasir Taylor in the slot, and then obviously there was the falling out with J.C. Jackson. So what was supposed to be a strength coming into the season was like the Chargers have too many cornerbacks, and now it's like, okay, but now we have too few cornerbacks and they're not playing great. But again, I think it's more about complicating what they do rather than saying like, hey, can you guys hold up in coverage for 3.5 seconds? Well, we let these guys up front go get it because the Chargers have a great pass rush too. Like Jets fans are going to get familiar if they aren't with Tui Pelotu. Like he's having an amazing year. And the rush with Bosa and Mack and Morgan Fox and Thule, it's like it's a really good combination. Like Sebastian Joseph Days had good rushes on the interior. Like they have it, not as good as the Jets, don't get me wrong, but they can get after the quarterback. The Chargers have a lot of sacks this year. But for whatever reason, playing these soft coverages, like let these guys be aggressive. Let Derwin go out there and be aggressive in pass coverage. Because when he gets aggressive in the run or the tackle, he's drawing penalties. Although the past 2 weeks have been good. Hopefully that continues on Monday night.
Yeah, and that is even crazier though, like that their D line is actually like, or at least their front seven is it's really good. I mean, I don't usually when you have good pressure, it makes the secondary's job so much easier because you have to cover you get to cover for less time, obviously. So that is, I am very interested to see, how that pans out because of course, the Jets haven't been able to pass on a lot of teams. Like weirdly enough, the only team has really been Kansas City, who's happened to be a top 5 defense in the league right now. So I'm not too sure, but I guess any given week that'll be pretty interesting. I will close it out here with a cliche prediction. What you got, Tony?
Okay. I got just a very boring 20-17 Chargers. I think that this game is closed out by either one of the defenses, causing a turnover of a team trying to drive late. And I'm just hoping that team trying to drive late is the Jets and Zach Wilson trying to drive down and get the game-winning score. Like Herbert, maybe 7-8 minutes, gets them down into field goal range, 17-17 game, or, maybe a 19-16 finish. But I got the Chargers by 3 in this game. I would not be shocked at all if that is not the case. Like everything that the Jets do on defense is pretty good, right? The run defense is maybe the weaker side of the ball, like the weaker side that I've seen this year. But even with that, like Quincy's brother, I forget what his first name is. Quinnen.
Quinnen and Quincy. Yep.
Quinnen's playing. Yeah. So Quincy's the linebacker.
Quincy is the older brother. Yes. He's the linebacker.
Quincy's playing fantastic. Mosley still playing good. Like those linebackers are there. They're going to be able to be effective in the run. So I don't see a ton of offensive success. But I'm just believing 20-17. They got to get back to 500 and keep hope alive.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I got similar. I have the Jets by 3. I mean, I think for me, it's, again, I feel the same way. Like, I think the Jets could win this game, but like, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. I mean, I'm not really surprised by anything anymore, but the Jets have won 3 in a row. And like, this is the game also the Chargers too, but like the Jets really need to win this game. Like these next few games, like the Giants, they beat them in a game that they never ever would have won any other year. And then you got the Chargers and then the Raiders. Like those 3 games are winnable. And then you go to Buffalo and then you play Miami. So like I feel kind of get a little greedy, and I think the Jets need to win all 3 of these games to be 6-3 to head into Miami and Buffalo. That way you can spare yourself a loss, because sweeping those teams is going to be a lot harder than, you know, I would say sweeping this next few teams, especially you got the Raiders out there too. But yeah, I'm going to go 23-20. I'm going to hot take too. I'm going to say it's going to go into overtime. The Jets were in overtime last week. I know the Chargers were overtime a few weeks ago against Dallas, right? That was an overtime game. I believe so, unless I'm wrong.
Was it overtime? I've already forgot. I know they went to overtime against Tennessee.
Okay.
I thought Dallas was a regulation win.
Oh yeah, you're right. I thought it was an overtime for some reason. Yeah, the Tennessee game was an overtime. Okay, yeah. But that's going to be my hot take. I'm going to say 23-20 in overtime. I think I wouldn't be surprised if it's 16-13, but I think if it's clear skies, I think, you know, I'm hoping it is, even though it could kind of be an advantage for the Jets too if it's raining, you know, since, you know, the Chargers have by far the better quarterback and it's better for the defense. But yeah, I would hope so. Maybe some points are scored, and we'll see, I guess. The Jets just really need to win this game. Both teams, like this is honestly like a mini playoff game, I would say. Monday night, 2 teams who've kind of, you know, been up and down, I would say, but still right in the thick of things. And this is, and you guys got the Lions next week. So like you need to win this game too. So it's like kind of, they're in very similar spots. So I think it's going to be interesting to see like which team is actually closer to being a playoff team. Cause I still can't sit here and just say, oh, the Chargers and the Jets are going to make the playoffs. Like I can't, you probably agree with me here. Like both of these teams, I think they still have things to fix up. Like the Chargers with their defense and the Jets with their offense. Like if they could fix that and just be competent to, you know, have the Jets defense win you games and the Chargers offense to win you games, then yeah, I would go ahead and say both of these teams definitely can get in, but like, let's see who's closer. I think that's going to be a big takeaway for this game.
I can confidently say there's no way that both of these teams make the playoffs this season, right? I had both of them in. Rough start for the Chargers, you know, and then obviously a brutal start losing Rodgers 4 plays in. So like they both really, really need to get this win. I will say this, for as average as the records are in this game, there's a ton of star power. A lot of times when you get these matchups, you don't have a 4-3 team that has Quinnen on one side of the ball, but then also has Garrett and Brees on the other side, where it's like that's a lot of fun to watch those guys play football. And the same thing, the Chargers are loaded with who they have on the defensive side of the ball, and then you get Herbert and Keenan and Eckler on the other side. I just get nauseous talking about how good of the players the Chargers had, and the record is 3-4. Like it's just disgusting.
Yeah, I know. They have like again, I feel like you guys say it, you probably think it too, like on paper every year. It's like the Chargers might have the best roster in the NFL. And then it's like, why isn't that happening?
Yeah. Why doesn't it equate to wins?
Right. Yeah, I know. I don't know. I feel you though. I mean, I also cheer for a team that disappoints me too. So like I get the frustration, and it's not even like they had injuries either. It's just maybe that's why everyone's pointing the finger at Staley, because this team is really good. And I still think, you know, I think last week is the game they needed. Like beat up on a bad team, get your confidence back after that Chiefs game. Obviously, you touched upon it earlier that it was a tough ending. So yeah, I think it should be a good one. But I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Tony, I really appreciate you jumping on, man. It was great to catch up with you, talk a little ball. And yeah, everyone go follow what Tony's doing over there at MJT on YouTube. I'll actually tag their channel too. You guys definitely should check them out. Again, subscribe to my channel too if you have not already. Like the video, follow me on Instagram, follow me on X. And yeah, Tony, it was a pleasure, man.
Yep. Thank you for having me. I hope it's a great game. Everybody's healthy, and we just get to watch a bunch of ballers.
Yep. Hopefully it's entertaining. I'll be recapping the game on Tuesday. Obviously, it's a Monday night. Jets, Chargers should be a good one. See you.
Jets, I hear them say it now.
Jets, white, green, just green and white. Tell me, have you ever seen a team take